just remember, guys, when I get done and everything's here, just come on up, okay? When I'm praying, just come up, relax, enjoy. Well, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Calvary, folks. We're here today. You're here today. Folks, you know what? Today you've made a great decision. Do you realize that? You've made a great decision. You've come out here to pray, to worship, to be in the house of God. You're sort of unique if you think about it. You might not feel that way, right? You might have even had to drag yourself out of bed to get here. But it's a very precious thing that you've done with your life today. You've invested your life appropriately this day, and I want to commend you for that, applaud you for it. It's very, very important to come out and worship God in all these things. Just a couple of announcements. Remember, the men's Bible study is tomorrow night. So, guys, if you want, it's a really good thing. Join us in a men's Bible study. It'll be time well spent. And as well, so next Sunday, we're having a potluck. We're having a Lord's table and a potluck, and we're going to have a Baby Lee event. A Baby Lee event. See, because when Grace was born, you know, it was during COVID. We couldn't have any baby showers. So we figured maybe next Sunday after service, after the Lord's table, we show some love for life, right? Love for life, a new life coming into the world. It's so good, Father. So folks, please join us for that next week. Out back on the table, right? These are all books for devotions for you going through the year 2023, okay? So if you don't have something that you can pick up in the morning and read a little bit about the Word of God, that's what these books are. They're out back. They're right out back on the table for you to take. And I thought this was an interesting picture. So we all know the events that happened this week, right? Damar Hamlin, he went down during that Monday night game. And it was a tragic thing. But it's amazing how things that are tragic can be used for good. Because what I thought was great about that, I know, not him getting hurt, trust me. But the media, the NFL and everyone, they didn't take the cameras off the Bills team and all of their staff coming together to kneel down and pray. Now, I don't know this. Just so you know, I followed this before Monday Night Football. The NFL always takes the cameras off the guys praying. You'll get a snippet once in a while, but that was it. This was so cool. It was so cool. So sometimes, folks, it takes a bit of a tragedy, if you will, to get our attention. It really does. So I praise God in a manner of speaking. Not that Damar got hurt, but people could see prayer in action, people down on their knees before God. It impressed me greatly when I saw that. I just want to mention that to you. But we've come this morning to worship and to praise God, right? I hope that's why you're here. So please stand and join the praise team. They're all practiced up, so you need to get in sync with them.
How great the chasm that lay between us, how high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness tore through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your buried body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Jesus, yours is the victory. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Oh God, you're my living hope. He became sin, who knew no sin, that we might become his righteousness. He humbled himself and carried the cross. Love so amazing, love so amazing. Jesus Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, the rescue for sinners, the ransom from heaven, Jesus Messiah, Lord of all. Body the bread, his blood the wine, broken and poured out, all for love. The whole earth trampled, and the veil was torn. Love so amazing, love so amazing. Jesus Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel. All the glory to you, God, the light of the world, Jesus Messiah, name above all names, blessed Redeemer, Emmanuel, the rescue for sinners, the ransom from heaven, Jesus Messiah, Lord of all, Jesus Messiah, Lord of all, the Lord of all, the Lord of all.
Amen. Thank you. I just love saying Jesus Messiah. I mean, it's just a fun, Jesus Messiah just sounds such a cool thing to say, I find that. But folks, hey, give each other a wave, say hi to each other, and then grab a seat. Junior church, you can escape downstairs, okay? You can go on downstairs. Look at Miss Melissa's waiting for you in the foyer. Thank you. It's good to be here, folks. As I said earlier, it's a great thing. You made a good decision coming to church, coming to worship. There's a lot of other things you could be doing in the world, right? But you made this decision. It was your decision. It really was. My decision to turn this thing on when I thought it was off. You know, what do I know? Freedom in the Ten Commandments. Ten Commandments. Everyone hears about them, knows about them, right? The Ten Commandments, right? Like the old Ten Commandments movie with Charlton Heston, which is an amazing movie. Just want you to know. So years ago, I was doing something. I don't know what. We had a whole bunch of teens and stuff doing things. And I said, you guys all seen the movie with Charlton Heston, The Ten Commandments? They said, what? And I was devastated. You haven't seen the Ten Commandments? So what we did was, after service one Sunday, what we did was everyone left, and who could stay if you wanted to. And it's like a 3-hour movie. We sat right here. We watched the Ten Commandments. It was so cool. Because it's a whole different genre of movies, right? I mean, they were at the pinnacle of special effects with that parting the Red Sea. It was really hard because we didn't have all the stuff we have now, but they really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it, and it was a great thing. But the Ten Commandments, the freedom that we find in them, it's amazing. That's what we're going to look at today. Today and actually next week as well. What do they mean? Well, they're a list of do's and don'ts. That's what they are, right? Don't steal, honor your parents. Don't murder, observe the Sabbath. Do's and don'ts, that's what we can see them as. The Ten Commandments are viewed as a really good moral list to live by, right? That's what they are. But you see, in reality, they're much, much more than that. They really are. We really understand this, and that's what I hope to bring across to you today as we look at this. Think about it. God took his people out of Egypt, out of bondage, right? He used plagues. He parted the Red Sea, brought them to Mount Sinai. He brought them to freedom, is what he did. And he gave them the Ten Commandments. It's not a moral list of do's and don'ts. It's how to live as free people. That's what the Ten Commandments are. How to live as free people. That's what they're all about. The Torah and the laws, they were instructions to the Jewish people on how to live as God's people. They are God's people. They need to learn how to live as God's people. This is important for us to understand. It was not restrictive. It's not restrictive. The law brought them closer to God. It was a schoolmaster. Hey, we educate our children all the time. We have these educational systems. Educate our children. They're going to be good American citizens. Well, sometimes. Sometimes not so much. I get it. I understand all that. But what are the Ten Commandments viewed as? Well, God's a cosmic killjoy, right? That's what they get viewed as. It's an amazing thing. But you see, freedom actually exists by these commandments. we're a country that boasts of our freedoms. We're free, we're free, we're free. I remember, I think, when I first started realizing this, I think it was in the late 60s or early 70s, there was these people in Cuba that would strap together floating coolers, and they'd be willing to float 90 miles to maybe hit Florida through shark-infested waters for freedom, because freedom is perceived as precious. People are still doing the same thing. I don't fault people for wanting to be free. I do not blame people for wanting to be free. I know if I was in an oppressed place, I would want out. No doubt about it. I mean, floating on coolers across, isn't that amazing? Shark-infested waters, that's what they did. See, we don't understand the Ten Commandments as a source of liberty. Why? Because our perspective is as beneficiaries of the Ten Commandments already. We are already benefiting from them, and I don't think we realize that. As slaves in Israel, right? As slaves in Egypt, the Israelites, they lived a lawless life. There was no laws protecting them whatsoever. They had no rights. They lived with no laws to protect them. They lived a fear-filled life, and I don't think we understand that. We don't come close to understanding that, I don't believe at all. Slaves were property. So to help us understand this a little bit better, okay, I want us to, the understanding of the Ten Commandments, I want us to look at when did they happen, where were they given, and who were they all about? Take a little perspective. Let's take it apart a little bit, okay? We need to stop and see that Israel, at a time when the Ten Commandments were given, we need to see this was God's timing. When did it happen in history? Okay. Abraham, father of Israel, right? Abraham's the father of Israel, okay? He followed God faithfully. He went where God told him to do, and he wound it up in the promised land in Canaan. That's where he wound it up. That's where he was. So what happens? Well, his great-grandson Joseph gets sold into slavery by his brothers. That's kind of ugly, isn't it? Could you imagine? You're being sold into slavery by your brothers. And he's shipped off to Egypt, where the whole story begins. Go a few more generations, what happens? Well, the nation of Israel followed him down here, Jacob and his sons. All of a sudden, Israel is in bondage in Egypt. They didn't receive a directive to go to Egypt. God said didn't say go to Egypt. They were already in the promised land. That's what they were, okay? So what they effectively did was they put it was a self-imposed bondage they went to. They evicted themselves from the promised land. After 400 years, God sends Moses down there, right, to lead the Israelites to freedom, to lead them out of the land of Egypt back to the promised land where they were already. It's kind of crazy if you think it through. They were already there. They were already there, and they need to go back there. The events, you know what happened? The plagues happened. The Passover took place. The firstborn of Egypt, they succumbed to the angel of death. The Red Sea parted. There was a cloud of fire, and all these things happening. They were fed by manna in the desert. They were free. They were given the Ten Commandments. But what does it mean? What does it mean to have these things? See, the commandments were essential to teach Israel how to have a life as free representatives of God. Israel was God's representatives on earth, weren't they? They were his chosen people. But where did it happen? Well, it happened at Mount Sinai after they were free. And the Ten Commandments is kind of interesting because if you go through the Word of God, and I'll probably go through this next week, the commandments are already given to people, given to Israel. It was just scattered in different instances, okay? They're already there. So what God did by giving the Ten Commandments, as we read it in Exodus chapter 20, he codifies it. He puts it in one place. It's like we all have information, right? And we're not sure what it all is. So like, what do? We put it in a cloud document. Everyone can get to it, right? No longer any excuses. That's what the Ten Commandments is. It's codified. Everyone can access them. If you don't access them, that's on you. But it was all put there for us. But being a slave for 400 years erases freedom from a person's heart, from their life, from their very psyche. From their very psyche. Think of people when they're released from prison. They need to transition back into society. That's why I think Dan Croce's ministry down at Plymouth County Correctional Institute, that New Hope Correctional Ministry is phenomenal. He helps men that have come to God transition back into society. Because losing your freedom is a horrific thing. It really is. They were free, but they didn't have a clue what to do with it. They didn't know anything about freedom. 400 years will do that to you. Generational slavery is crippling. It really is. And God did everything for them to get them out of there, right? To give them the 10 Commandments. The knowledge that they needed to live freely. They didn't do anything. Israel had no army. They did nothing. God did it all for them. So we come to Exodus chapter 20. Let's read the first 3 verses, see where it leads us to. And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God. I am the Lord your God. This is how it all starts off, very important. Who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. That's how it starts. Let's pray and continue in this. Lord, I do thank you for this day, Father. Lord, I thank you that I can call you Father, and you've made that clear. Your power is so great. Lord, as we go through this, looking at the 10 Commandments and the freedom that's found in it, Lord, I pray, Father, that the words that I speak will touch people's hearts, and we'll see that our freedom truly comes from you, Lord. Thank you for the blessing to be here this day, Lord. Thank you for these people. You call people to come to worship you a peculiar people, and that's a compliment. I thank you for everyone that's here today, Lord. Thank you, Father. Amen. Amen. So, we get to the 10 Commandments. You shall have no other gods before me. The 10 Commandments, the tablets, they go up there, right? And once again, they were stone tablets. They weren't electronic. We need to clarify that sometime, right? It's funny. You go through time. People don't know certain things. It sounds silly. I'm not trying to even be silly. No, they were stone tablets. But God's the focal point. He's the focal point of this. Israel is God's chosen people. God has freed Israel from self-imposed bondage. They did not have to be in bondage. They were in the promised land. They left the promised land. So important. God said, I brought you out of the promised land. I brought you out of Egypt. He says that repeatedly in the Bible. I brought you out. I brought you out. He's trying to get this point across to them. I brought you out. So much of the time, what do we want to do? Well, I did this, as in Pete did it. No, 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 no. God did this. God brought them out. It's so important for us to know that. And God comes, good comes from this tragic event. It's kind of crazy. Just like I said, that thing with Damar Hamlin, I think real good came out of it. I mean, the nation saw all these men, these rough, tough football players, they were crying. They were in tears over this man. It was. And they were praying. They were praying. It was so news. And you heard the casters, the newscasters, everyone, they were praying, they're praying, they're praying. I don't know if any of these people even use that word, nor do they know what it means. But I like to hear it. I did. I loved it. I mean, I just loved hearing it continuously coming through them. It does. But how to live free, right? What did Joseph say? Remember when Joseph was down in Egypt? What man meant for evil, God meant for good, right? Same thing. 400 years of slavery. That's pretty rough. Somehow, beyond our understanding, God allowed this, and he meant it for good. Because he's going to teach the world how to be free through this. That's what I believe. They're no longer slaves. Generationally in Egypt, they were inundated with false gods. False gods all the time. Have no other gods before me. God is number one. God tells Israel that Pharaoh no longer has any power over them, okay? They're no longer going to do this. And he continues on in verse 4. You shall not make for yourselves a carved image or any likeness of anything in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down or serve them. They were bowing down and serving false gods for 400 years. And if they didn't want to bow down, they were made to bow down. Okay? For I am the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, and showing steadfast love to thousands of those who love me and keep my commandments. Keep my commandments. See, Israel has been exposed to every image a person can think of a god. All right? They really have been. How could you not be indoctrinated into this? All these gods you would have seen, all right? Think, you're a slave. You're an Israelite slave, right? They were there for 400 years. Say at 200 years, you say, excuse me, master, you might not realize this, but I'm an Israelite, and we're monotheistic. We believe the one and only true God. You know, all these statues and stuff you have, that's polytheism. They're nothing. You really shouldn't be doing that. Do you think that's what an Israelite's going to do? I don't think so. I don't think so. They're in a really tough position because they had the truth to some level, but they couldn't do anything with it. They were in bondage. They were in bondage. Egyptians had idols everywhere. It's been said that human nature is like an idol factory that operates constantly. We constantly deal with the temptation to set all kinds of things before or to compete with God and His preeminence in our lives. All the idols that we create. Idols are all the things, the events, and desires that are between us and God, right? It's like there's a line to my heart. Is God at the head of that line? You know, when you go to BJ's sometimes, you hit it at the wrong time. You ever seen the lines in that place? You're going down the aisles. So if someone comes up and they cut in line in front of you, excuse me, the line's back that way, okay? The end of the line there, right? You kick them out, right? Politely. You try to at least, because you don't want anything bad to happen. Tell me, when an idol comes in our lives and comes between us and God, do we ask the idol to step out of line? Or do we let the idol stay there? It's kind of interesting. Something's always at us. Something is at us continuously. We are barraged with idols when we think about it. So just for fun, who are some of the idols, the gods that they had to deal with? I thought it was kind of fun. Here's Ra. He was the big one. He was the sun god, right? Ra. He was kind of cool looking, I think, you know. He's there. No, he's got a sun up here. There's a snake around the sun. Always a big thing. You have the snakes. They were just big into snakes there. I was looking at all these images. There's snakes and everything. There's a lot of snakes in that part of the world. That's why. Okay? They always have the bird head was there. He had a scepter because he was the king. And he had this thing called an ankh down here. An ankh. What's an ankh? I've seen these things around ankh. Okay? That was life, or the breath of life. That's what they had. It was an ankh. That was that symbol, that cross with that circle on top of it. Turns out the ankh, that symbol, that existed thousands of years even before Egypt came on the scene. It went before Egypt, and it just continued. It meant life. But of course, it only meant life if you were the elite, if you were in power, if you were an Egyptian. Everyone else, not so much. It's a funny thing about that. This is what they were surrounded with when you go through this. This is an interesting one. This is a couple more of the gods. So the guy down at the bottom, that's Geb. He's the god of the earth. This is his wife. Nut, the god of the sky. In the middle, that's Shu. That's Nut's father. And he keeps the earth and the sky apart. Now, they weren't trying to be funny. It's just that they assigned a god for everything they came in contact with. That's how they dealt with it. A god for everything, for every occasion. You needed one to have things controlled. And they had a son. There's Osiris. He was a real big god, really important. And notice Osiris, he's got an ankh down in his hand too, right? Control life. This is what they were inundated with continuously. They were all around, every place. Just go look at anything on Egyptian artifacts. It's amazing. The gods that are around them, plural, for everything, everything. These idols. And it's the same thing that we can do in our lives. We can have idols all around us. It's an amazing thing that happens to us. The list goes on. I didn't put ISIS up there. ISIS was a good one. When I was a kid, there was a show, ISIS, that used to be on TV. She'd spin around in circles and go flying up. I love the ISIS show. She's another Egyptian goddess. That's all. It was great. God started off simple. Have no gods before me. Number, don't have any gods before me. None of the carved images. They needed a complete and total reboot in their thought processes. That's what they needed, okay? God is jealous because he protects his people. See, the word jealous gets so completely misused. Jealous has a sort of a negative, selfish connotation with it. It's like a Hollywood taintedness that comes to it. If someone comes between me and my wife, I'm going to become jealous because I love her. God said, we're one flesh. God said, till death do us part. If you become between me and my wife, I hope you don't get upset if I knock a guy out. But you're not going to come between me and my wife. I love her. I would be extremely jealous. That's a jealousy born out of love. And that's what God was trying. He wanted his people near him. He's a jealous God. He wants to care and love you. He wants to be first in line. No idols in between. So important for us to keep this in mind. It really is. Nothing between us. And Egypt had a lot to lose if they lose the slaves, right? They lose their monetary workforce. They did not want to lose them. I mean, Pharaoh had a hard heart. Man, he was down with he had a heart. He didn't want to do anything to lose his workforce. It was amazing. Everything always got focused on Pharaoh, if you notice all the dialogues. You didn't see Egypt up there. In fact, Egypt, many times, they're telling him probably, yo, let's back off. No, not Pharaoh. His heart was heart. He was against all these things. That love of money. It's an amazing, powerful thing. It's the love of money and all the collateral, sinful pleasure that comes with it as well. Because he had all these slaves at his disposal. It's ugly. It really is. Israel's no longer in bondage to those idols. They're free. I'm the Lord your God. Pharaoh isn't. I brought you out of Egypt. As we follow through this in Exodus, so next week we're going to look at using the Lord's name in vain, because I really want to look at that by itself as its own entity. In verse 8 it says, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. And that's a great goal. Remember the Sabbath, the day of rest, and keep it holy. You know, it's not just remember the Sabbath and take a rest. Keep it holy. That sometimes I forget about that. Keep it holy. What's that mean? Think about it. You tell me. 6 days you'll labor and do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work. You, your son, your daughter, your male servant, your female servant, your livestock, or the sojourner within your gates. Everyone, relax. Take a break. Chill. Recover. Sabbath is a day of rest. That's so important for us to do this. Israel has come out of slavery. Slaves don't get days off, folks. They are exhausted. You're now free. You're free to rest. I am your God. That's what it's all about. See, these high school kids that get done with a race, right? They're on a track. They're laying down. They're tired. Are they exhausted? Well, they're tired. Are their legs pained? Yeah, I get it. But, you know, give them 3 minutes and that lactic acid will be gone. No, they were exhausted. Mentally, physically, spiritually. Their life has been taken away from them. They were exhausted. God said, you're going to need to have rest. It's an amazing thing when you think about it. And it's a funny thing about sleep and rest. It's amazing how much we study this, right? We study this all the time. We really do. And think about the grad students out there. This study's going on sleep deprivation, rest, and all these things all the time. I don't think we need to study it anymore. I think we got it down. God told us in Exodus, you need a day of rest. Isn't that hard? We keep on reinventing it, and it's okay. But you know what those grad students need to work on? They need to work on training people to take a day of rest and not backfill it with a bunch of stuff, because that's what we do. We backfill that day. I got a day off. What can I do? And that's not exactly keeping it holy, is it? We want to rest. We want to recover. We want to regenerate. It's so important. We need rest. Sometimes, you know what we're like? We're like a, you know, you're trying to put your child to bed. What's the child do? They pitch a fit. They don't want to go to bed, right? You know what they're going to be like the next day, huh? You're going to have a demon child. You know that. That's what it's going to be. We all know this. That kid's got to go to sleep because I need to survive tomorrow. And that, I think, we're like it sometimes. We don't want to do it. We just don't want to do it. And we don't care about the repercussions the next day. We need rest. Those repercussions come in many, many ways. In verse 12 it says, honor your mother and father, that your days may be long in the land that the Lord your God is giving you. God is giving them the land. It's always about God. Parents of the Israelites suffered greatly to have their children even survive. Moms and dads watched over their children till God came and rescued them. That's what they did. That's what they had to do. They were over their children continuously. They had to be. Parents will do that. In Egypt, the Israelites lived primarily in the land of Goshen, and the Hebrews multiplied greatly there. It's amazing what they did. Parents did all they could for their children. This is something that is to be honored. It really is. God commanded it to be that way. Parents didn't raise their children to go to college. They're slaves. They raised their children to keep their masters happy. They raised their children to have their children not get beaten by their masters. They raised their young women to be wise and wary of their male overseers, so that maybe they could at least minimize the sexual abuse they would go underneath. I said minimize. It's horrific. It's terrifying. But this is the world they lived in as slaves. They need rest from this. And their parents did everything they could to protect them in this. The command to honor your parents is a reminder of the deliverance of God, I think. I really do. Let humanity never forget that the parents willing to do for their children. We can forget that sometimes. It's a sacrifice. We know the Father is willing to sacrifice his own Son for freedom from our sins. Do you see the trail that leads from the Old Testament to the New? Does it help bring the perspective of what it means of honoring your parents when you think of that? Because it really helps me. Now, the next 4 commandments that we're going to look at in a minute, they prohibit activities that seem sensible, that you would never do these things. That it is. I'm saying that ahead of time because I want us to understand that we are already the beneficiaries of these commandments, and we don't realize it because we already benefit. You know, if you're getting something already, sometimes it's hard to appreciate it. It just is. It just is, right? You know, I can really sometimes, my wife loves me all the time. Sometimes I can forget to appreciate that. I really can. Well, of course she's going to take care of me. She's my wife. That's kind of like arrogant if you think about it. But let's think about these things. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You should not steal. You should not bear false witness against your neighbor. See, Israel and the world itself that existed then normalized those things. Murder, adultery, stealing, and lying was normal. It was normal. You say, well, people didn't do that. No, they did do that, and it was normal. What does the world do today with these commandments, right? What do we do with the commandments? We take them down. I'm not saying to go out and protest against everyone who's taking the 10 Commandments down. I'm not saying that. But if people don't know God, what difference does it make? You're going to tell me what to do? I don't know. As I said last week, I don't get too upset over people doing funny things out there if they don't know God. But between us, if you know God and you start going crazy, I got to speak to you. And if I start going crazy, you need to speak to me. We need to be responsible for each other. That's what a church does. We're a body, okay? My toe hurts. My hands go help it, right? Think about it. Think about it. Let's do a little hypothetical. Let me have some fun at the end of this message. Hypothetical, okay? Let's say we could all vote on the 10 Commandments, whether we're going to have them, as a nation, for example. But I'm going to make it easy for you. The first 3 that have to do with God, no gods before me, no graven images, what was that? Don't use his name in vain. Those 3, they don't count. We're going to take God out of the picture. That leaves us with 7. So we're going to vote on them. How do you think the vote might go? Because the first one's to rest on the Sabbath. And that kind of makes sense. Take a break. I mean, science tells us that we need to rest. We know when we sleep, our cells, they repair themselves. That's when it happens. It's a good thing. And it sounds good until I start thinking of all the things that I'm going to not get done if I waste time resting, right? We fill up our days with stuff. No, I have to do these things. Whether it's a thing, whether it's an entertainment, whether it's another job to make more money, do it. So you start thinking about having a day of rest. You know, you've started going through voting on it. Well, I don't think I want to be part of that party. I don't think we should have that as a commandment because I have things I want to do. How about honoring your parents? Well, of course, I'm going to honor my parents. I mean, she gave birth to me, right? But you know what? Mom and Dad are getting old. You know, they just can't do what they used to do, okay? And I'm pretty busy now. I mean, I love them and everything, but honoring them the way you're talking about, Pete, you know what? They're adults. They can take care of themselves. And I'm certain, you know, at some point, don't worry. We have a government system that's going to take care of them. So honoring your parents, we need to just, I'll take a pass on that one. Murder, don't murder. I'm not going to murder anyone, okay? I mean, in the King James Bible, it says do not kill, and that's the wrong word because kill is ubiquitous. It's really murder, which is an unjust killing, okay? If you attack me and my wife and I kill you, that's justified. I don't want to kill anyone, by the way. It's just, you know, killing is not my thing. I don't own a gun, okay, anything. But my point being is the difference in the words, in the meaning, and I think we know that. So I'm not going to murder anyone, okay? Oh, but abortion doesn't count. I just want to throw that in there. Just want to be clear, abortion doesn't count on that. Don't commit adultery. Well, that's stupid. Don't commit adultery? Excuse me. But 2 consenting adults deciding that they want to have sex, what difference does it make? Right? That we both consented. Oh, my wife knows about it. We have an open marriage. I'm like Will Smith, okay? I have an open marriage. So I'm not going to vote for that whole adultery thing either. Don't steal. I never steal. I just adjust my taxes to correct for those ineptitudes that the government has taking so much from me. I really do. I don't steal from the government. But those rich people, oh, we need to take that money from them because we deserve that money. They don't deserve it, okay? Let me be clear with that. Oh, one more thing. When I'm at the grocery store and I'm checking out, okay, if something falls into the bag, okay, and I don't pay for it, that's on the grocery store because what are you making me check out my own stuff for? How come someone doesn't check it out for me? What am I, your slave? No, so I don't think the stealing thing works for me. Don't bear false witness. Are you serious? We all lie. How am I going to get through the day if I don't lie? They're just little white lies. I'm not going to go for that one. Nope, I'm going to vote that one down, okay? Don't covet. What does that even mean? What do you mean don't covet? I don't even know what that means. Well, you know what that means? That means having an unnatural desire for something that you think that, you really have it, you really deserve it. What? You're saying there's something I don't deserve? Do you know who I am? I deserve whatever I want. I am down on this covet thing. See, if you voted on these things and you left it up to me, I'd vote them all down. I would. And you're sitting here listening to me, huh? I'm just telling you. I'm telling you. They go against. This is the world that they lived in. This is the world that Israel lived in. It was barbaric. You see, the Ten Commandments came in and they solved these problems to a manner of speaking. Freedom comes from having these commands given to us. Because you take away these commands, what kind of a world are you going to live in, right? It's a funny thing. People say, how does God allow these things to happen? And one of my favorite places to pick on, because it's come up right in this church, is, well, how could God ever allow North Korea to exist with this leader, Kim Jong-un, right? I remember Glenn Nasman standing here teaching that when that question was questioned here in a Sunday school lesson. And he said, because if he wasn't there, the chaos that would reign would be even worse. Think about it. And that guy's an animal. It would even be worse if there wasn't some sort of control. And it's a hard thing. That's a hard pill to swallow. It really is. I get it. So which ones would you choose or not choose? Because my sin nature doesn't like any of them. I don't want to have anyone tell me what to do. Just don't. I just don't. And that's what we can do very easily, folks. Where is your freedom? I want to suggest to you that we are beneficiaries of these Ten Commandments. These things are in place, and we just sometimes don't realize it, how protective they are of us. I know people want to take them down. They don't know. If you took them away, it would be chaos. Remove it and chaos would reign. We think that we lived as civilized people. And oh, that I wish that would be true, right? But that's my ego, folks. I am that good. I'm not. Neither are you, and I don't mean to insult you. So the Ten Commandments, when they're given by God, they were given after He took His people out of slavery into freedom, and they didn't know how to deal with it. And He gave them the framework that we would live inside to have freedom. Next week, we're going to continue with this. We're going to see where it actually began, starting in Genesis. And I'm going to see what it is to take the Lord's name in vain. Because I think sometimes when I presented even this pulpit, I think I've given it far too superficially. And I think it goes a lot deeper than we think. But having said all those things, folks, remember where your freedom comes from. It comes from God. Not from the flag. Respect the flag. I'm down with it. But it comes from God. Let's pray. Lord, I do thank you for this day, Lord. I thank you for the goodness you give us. I thank you for the freedoms we have, because we have so much freedom in this world, Lord. Your commandments seem so hard to us at times, but are they really? What will we give up in them? What will we give up by not having them? It would be a terrifying world that we live in. I thank you and praise you, Lord, for this day and for your goodness that you have for us. In your Son's name we pray. Amen. Amen. Well, praise team, do you want to come on up here? I know I caught you off guard. I got done early, huh? You're going to have to pay me extra for that. Hey, folks, if you'd like to as well, the offering baskets are up here. Next week we'll try and come up here. If you go into the foyer, you're going to see right out there on lighting things up for God, you're going to see a list of things to count me in. There's a list of things there that need to be done at the church that you can sign your name to. Right out there when you leave. There's so much needs to be done. It's exciting. You can be involved. Please stand as these ladies close us out.
Dead, now I'm living forever. I had failed, but you were my Redeemer. I've been blessed beyond all measure. I was lost, now I'm found by the Father. I've been changed from a room to treasure. I've been given a hope and a future. I've been blessed beyond all measure. I am counting every blessing, counting every blessing, letting go and trusting when I cannot see. I am counting every blessing, counting every blessing. Surely every season you are good to me. Oh, you are good to me. Oh, you are good to me. You were there in the valley of shadows, there in the depth of my sorrows. You're my strength, my hope for tomorrow.